There definitely are specific songs that inspire my work, but especially with band photos, I feel like in the moment for each specific song really inspires the photographs that kind of go with the song, and kind of like the set as a whole. I feel like each performance has a different feeling and a different tone and a different energy that the crowd brings as well as the band. That kind of makes it like all the pictures from one show kind of cohesive, but also from each song kind of have its own feel. And I think that goes into rock and roll as well, is a huge influence of mine personally, and kind of just like the authenticity of rock and roll, and kind of like the brashness. Really before I even liked drawing or anything like that, because my dad takes pictures of, like, he does like panoramas of landscapes, and so I kind of got started kind of like hiking around with my dad and my brothers, and taking, jeez, I'm so emotional about that. I'm ovulating, so my whole process for especially shooting band photos is a pretty quick process, because I normally get to the venue like as the band is kind of setting up and kind of can scout stuff out. And not a lot of thought really goes into it. I kind of like in the moment pictures, especially with like live music. I like to kind of get the essence of like being there. So I don't do a lot of planning out for those type of photography. Well, it was just, that was one of the coolest experiences of the tour, because they were playing, they shut down the street, so no cars could go through, and the World Cup was playing, and France was playing, and they had won, and so everybody was super excited and super stoked. And so they have like this makeshift stage out in the middle of the street, like made out of like plywood, that they kind of like loaded their gear onto, and there's like a band before them that kind of like brought some people in, and then they played, and it was so cool to kind of see everybody's reaction to their music, and to kind of see how the guys just like brought it, and it was like, it was a really, really cool experience, like one that I don't think I'll ever forget, just like being there and kind of feeling the energy there, and kind of feeling the crowd's energy too. And you know, I was jumping all over the place trying to get pictures from all sorts of different angles, because one of my goals for the pictures was for like somebody to be there, and so they could kind of like get a sense of the space, and kind of imagine kind of like being at that show, at that venue. That was kind of one of my goals, like kind of throughout taking pictures of the tour. And I really started getting into photography. My dad would take panoramic pictures of Utah, kind of like the southern Utah landscapes of like the Red Rock, the really kind of like minimal desert landscapes. And so I kind of got started, you know, kind of going around with him and my brothers and kind of taking pictures with them and kind of helping set up the shots and kind of learning the way the camera worked and kind of the shots that you needed to make these large landscape photos. And that kind of really got me interested because you know, it was a beautiful way to kind of capture that landscape for people who may want to, like drawings, like I have like a really strong connection to animals, and kind of like the environments that animals kind of like evolved in, and kind of the patterns in living things. Like I really like the patterns that leaves grow in, and different like geometric patterns that are found in nature that I think are really beautiful. I think the color palette plays a huge role for me because I'm really drawn to really specific colors like greens and blues, stuff that's like subtle, almost too desaturated, and bright colors aren't really my thing, and that's why I really like black and white photos with, I actually, most of my photos are black and white. I choose to kind of display them that way, especially like the band photos. I really like black and white photos because I like the moodiness and I like the desaturation. I like the grays and blacks and whites. Yeah, so one of the themes that I really like to focus on with the photography, especially with live music, is having somebody feel like they're there, and kind of having, even if they're, you know, looking at tons of different photos from one show or one venue, I want them to feel like, you know, they were there and they experienced that, and kind of just getting that snapshot of kind of the energy there and kind of the feeling from a specific show or even a specific song, honestly, getting the vibe from the song. Yeah, there's no way that I could take photos from a band that I didn't like and you know, have them still look as good, because I'm not feeling it. And if I'm not feeling it, I don't think it really portrays in the photography. Yeah, a big part of taking pictures and kind of having them, I don't know, look good and be authentic is me really enjoying the music. At work, I'm a photo retoucher and I work for a portrait studio. So I do a lot of retouching of people, which has been really interesting for me because I used to work as a kind of commercial photographer and do retouching for like catalogs. But now I'm actually like working with people and with people's emotions of how they look, and how they feel about how they look. So it's been a really interesting transition. Kind of getting feedback from people with how they want to be retouched. And that's been really interesting for me, to kind of get a sense of how uncomfortable people are with how they look. And it's been kind of sad to have so many people want to look different than how they look. And that's been really interesting for me to kind of like come to grips with, like, yeah, I'm editing photos and it's creative, but I'm also kind of making people not authentic to how they actually are. So that's been an interesting struggle for me. I've never really been a fan of, you know, like overly photoshopped models. Like, I don't think that it's putting out a good image for women to kind of aspire to. So it's been hard for me to be actually doing that kind of Photoshop work and that retouching work to people who, you know, want to look perfect and have like the perfect look. There's not a strong request for retouching with band photo, and that's one of the goals as well. And that's one of the things that I love about that type of photography is the authenticity and the realness of the people and the music.